Hi, today we are going to be working on division. While we're working on it, we're going to relate it to the ratio table that we've been working on and the open array. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, I remember using the ratio table to do multiplication. Absolutely. But we also know that multiplication and division are related to each other. You can rearrange a multiplication problem to be a division problem, right? Because if you had what is like 18 divided by 9, and you're trying to figure out that answer, you could also say what times 9 equals 18. And that would give you the same answer because this would be a 2 and this would also be a 2, right? 2 times 9 is 18. Which means that if you divide 18 into 9 equal groups, each group has 2 in it, okay? So let's take a look at this, and I'll show you what I mean, so then you can practice today. Kyle brought oranges to his soccer game to eat at halftime. He had 28 oranges. He cut each orange into 12 slices. How many orange slices did he bring to the game? Interesting. 28 total oranges. I kind of like to highlight this information so I know what I'm looking at. Cut each orange into 12 slices. So it sounds like he brought a lot of slices to the game. Hopefully he's sharing them with his friends because I wouldn't even be able to eat a few oranges, let alone 28. So we're hoping he's sharing them. So if you take one orange, I don't know if I have orange in here or not. Let me take a little look here. I guess I have something that's orange-like. So let's try it this way. If I took this orange, that's just one of them, and I cut it into 12 slices. Let's see how well I can do this. So one orange, 12 slices. So we're going to have a pretty big number here. Looks like we're multiplying, right? Because if one orange gets cut into 12 slices is 12, we're going to be trying to figure out what happens if I take 28 oranges and I cut them into 12 pieces. 28 times 12. That's our equation. For this, we can do a ratio table, and we can do an open array. So take a look at this. Let's do a vertical one today, because we've been doing a lot of horizontal ones. If you remember, the horizontal ones go like this. Let's do a different one today. Let's do horizontal. So I'm going to split this up so that I have, let's say, oranges here, and I have slices here. And what did we just say up here that's helpful information? Well, we said that one orange gets cut into 12 slices, okay? So as I go through here, I should be able to find 28 eventually. We're trying to turn this one orange into 28. Now, we could stack them 28 times 12 and do standard algorithm. But we have to be able to solve this more than one way, because if you ever forget a step in standard algorithm, or if you just make a silly mistake along the way, you won't have the right answer, and it's great to be able to check your work. So let's keep going. You know that I'm a big fan of doubling and doubling and doubling, so let's do that. What happens if I double 1? Well, it turns into 2. What happens if I double 2? Well, that turns into 4. What happens if I double 4? Well, that turns into 8. So let's go ahead and fill out our ratio table that way, okay? Now let's figure out our answers on the right side. So if I doubled 1 into 2, let's double 12. If you're not sure, you could always work it out on the side. 12 plus 12 is 24. By the way, you're allowed to pause this video and work it out on your own. And then if we double 2 into 4, we need to double 24. Once again, you have all of this paper to do all of your figuring on so that you don't have to do all of these in your head. So that's 48. And then if I turn 4 into 8 by doubling it, well, let's double 48. So that would be 48 plus 48. 8 plus 8 is 16. Carry the 1. 4 plus 4 is 8. Plus 1 is 9. So we have a 96 here. And you know that I also like to do the tens rule. Why? Well, because we can use our 0 rule to figure out the answer. To figure out what 12 times 10 is, you can pretend that I'm changing my color here, give me a second. You can pretend that the 0 is not there. We know that 12 times 1 is 12. Oops, it's not writing. There we go. And then just remember to put your 0 back on and then put it on your answer. So it's 120. Okay. Do we have enough information right now to answer it? Well, close. One thing that I would think about is we're trying to get to 28. Well, we're to 10. What can I do with 10 to get a little bit closer to 28? Well, I could double this, and I could have 20 oranges, which means I'm also going to have to double the 120. When I do that, what do I end up with? Well, once again, use your paper to help you. You can add them together. 0 plus 0 is 0. 2 plus 2 is 4. 1 plus 1 is 2. So that's 240. We are now to the point where we have enough information to solve this problem. How do I know? Well, if I'm trying to make 28 oranges to figure out how many slices I have 20. I also have 8, which means if I were to add 20 plus 8, I would have 28. 20 plus 8 is 28. So then on the other side, I just need to add the same numbers. So 8 corresponds to 96. 20 times 12 is 2. Oops, my pen changed. 20 times 204, excuse me. 20 times 12 is 240. So if I add 96 plus 240, I will have the answer. And like usual, you can use your paper to answer that, because it's no reason to do all of these in your head and then end up with a wrong answer. 6, let's see, we have a 13, carry the 1, 2 plus 1 is 3, which means that 28 times 12 is 336. That is our answer. Now, I have all this paper over here on the side that I'd like you to do a little bit of writing in, and I'll show you what I mean. We're counting by 12s, yes? So let's talk about that for a second. We could do an open array several different ways, but the way that I would do it would be to start by drawing a rectangle. Maybe I'll see if this turns into an okay rectangle. Well, that's not bad. Kind of more of a square, but that's okay. And then I'm going to kind of put a smaller line here, and you'll understand why in a second. If our equation is 28 times 12, we're counting by 12s, okay? Well, let's go ahead and put a 12 up here. And what are we taking the 12 times? Well, we're taking the 12 times 28. And if you remember, we can break this number up and make it friendlier. So 28 can be broken into 20 and 8. And then we can do a little math here. We're going to take 12 times 20, and we'll write that answer in here. We'll take 12 times 8, write that answer in here. So let's go ahead and write our 12 times 20. I'm going to keep it kind of small, so I have just room for my answer, so I know the difference. And then let's, in the next box, write our 12 times 8, okay? Because at the end of the day, we're trying to figure out what 12 times 28 is. Well, 12 times 20, 12 times 8, are going to add those together to get our answer, just like we did over here. 12 times 8, 12 times 20, we added those numbers together right here to get our answer, okay? So 12 times 20, according to our ratio table, is 240. I'm going to write that nice and big so we don't confuse that. And then on our ratio table, we said that 12 times 8 is 96. This is just a visual representation of what we solved in our table. If we add 240 plus 96, we're going to get our 336, which is the answer. So that open array can be used, and I encourage you to use it as well, to solve this kind of equation. Let's move our papers down and look at the next one. And I'm going to probably have to make this go bye-bye because it's not going to want to hang out. One more. Boop. Okay. Here we go. So this says, Mrs. Brown, the gym teacher, lives at Live Oaks School is planning field day. She wants to organize her 216 students into teams of 9 for the different events. How many teams can she make? So she wants to take 216 and make groups of 9. She's got to figure out how many is going to be, how many teams she can have if there's groups of 9. That doesn't sound like multiplication, because what would it say if it was multiplication? If she has 216 groups and there's 9 in each group, that would be a multiplication problem, and that would be an enormous problem. So it's not asking us to multiply, okay? It says she's going to divide the 216 students into groups of 9, okay? So that division is what we're looking for. So we're going to be doing 216 students, dividing them into teams of 9, and this answer will be how many teams Mrs. Brown can have, okay? Now, you might be thinking to yourself, this seems quite a bit different than the last one, because in the last problem we had a multiplication problem and we used a ratio table. Well, like I said when this video started, we're also going to use a ratio table. So let's go ahead and make one, please. So let's start by kind of forming our T-chart. We'll maybe write teams here, and we'll write students here, and then we can divide it with our T. And woo, okay. We're going to probably write a few more numbers again, but I could probably make it fewer this time. But honestly, oops, I don't like that line. If you remember, one of the nice things about the pattern that we've been using, our double, 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 is that you can combine those numbers really quickly to get answers. So according to Mrs. Brown, she wants how many on each team? Well, she said in one team, she wants 9 students. So now we're set up. We're going to be counting by 9s. So whatever number is here, we take times 9 and write it next to the number. So let's double our 1 to make 2, double 2 to make 4, 4 to make 8, and then you know that I always like to have a 10 after that. Those numbers are so handy for combining that you can find lots of great answers, okay? If we double 9, 9 plus 9 is 18. And then if we double the 18, you have all this paper, so don't be afraid to write it down just to make sure you don't make a mistake. 8 plus 8 is 16, carry the 1. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3, so that'd be 36. So these are kind of your 9 math facts. 9 times 4 is 36. We're going to double the 4 into 8, so that means we can just double the 36, okay? And once again, we can write that down. 36 plus 36. 6 plus 6 is 12. Carry the 1. 3 plus 3 is 6. Plus 1 is 7. That would be 72. And that's one of our math facts, right? 9 times 8 is 72. And we just figured that out right here. Use our zeros rule. If you can't remember, watch please. Pretend that zero's not there. What is 1 times 9? Well, that's 9. But don't forget to put that 0 back on, and then you're going to put it back there. So whatever, if you're taking a number times 10, it is the number with a 0 written after it, okay? Now, what are we trying to get to? We're trying to get to, let me back this out so we can see the whole equation, 216. So we're trying to get this number on the right side to be 216. And you might be thinking to yourself, wait. In the last problem, the number we were looking for was 28, and we had it on this side. Absolutely. I understand why you would think that way, because it says we have 28 oranges. How many slices are in 12? Well, so we needed a 28 to multiply times 12. But this time we know what the number is. We're trying to divide the number to figure out how many teams Mrs. Brown will have on field day. So we're trying to get this number on the right side to be 216. So hopefully that helps your brain just a little bit. What am I going to do for that? Well, this number, even though I went to 10, is not anywhere big enough to get to 216. So maybe we can just start by doubling this one. You might think to yourself, well, what if we did 100? Well, that would be 900. That's way too big, so that's not helpful. So we know our answer is bigger than 10 but smaller than 100. So let's just double this 10 and make it 20. So then we're just going to double the 90. Well, you can stack and add just to make sure you don't make any mistakes, but that's going to be 180. You can also remember the zeros rule again, because we said that if you know what 2 times the number is, 20 times the number is just that number with a 0 written on the end. Okay, now we're at 180. Still not close enough to get 216. So you might think to yourself, well, if we use this zeros rule again, could I do 40? Because we know that it would be 36 with a 0. Well, that would be way too big. So I do not suggest using the number 40. So we now know that it's less than 40, but more than 20. We actually have all of the information we need on this page. So what could we do? Well, we could kind of slowly go through it to figure out our answer. If we're trying to get to 216, we could do 21, and then 22, and then 23. Well, let's simplify it a little bit by thinking this way. We know that the answer we're trying to get to is 216. That's an even number. So maybe we could just count by 2s and do 22 of them. So we're just going to add 18 more to this number, because 20 to 22 is 2 more. What is 2 more? 18. Let's see what happens. 180 plus 18 is 198. Well, we're getting closer, so that's 198. Okay. Let's do 2 more, and let's do 24. So we're going to add another 18 to this number. Here, so I'm going to find another place to write. So maybe over here I could do it. 198 plus 18 more. Help me out here. 8 plus 8 is 16. Carry the 1. 9 plus 1 plus 1 is 11. Carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. We just found our number. So we know that 24 times 9 is 216. So I didn't need this extra row down here, so I could get rid of that. So the answer to our problem, how many teams of 9 can I make if I have 216 students, is going to be 24. So in this area, when we're talking about the problem, what is 216 divided by 9? 24. So how many teams can Mrs. Brown make? 24 teams. What would that look like if we decided to use the open array for that? Well, our last one went down the page, which is fine. This one, I'd kind of like us to go across the page. And I'm going to turn my piece of paper just so I have kind of a wider place to draw. And let's give it a try. We know that we're counting by 9s. So what I'm going to do is start by drawing this kind of a box with a 9 here. So we're counting by 9s. We know that 9 times 10 is 90. And our answer, if you remember, was 24, right? So we're trying to get this side to equal 24. Well, I'm at 10, so let's do another 10. We know that 9 times 10, we just did it here, is another 90. And we said that our answer was 24. So if I have 10 here and 10 here, how many more do I need? Well, I only need 4 more, so let's finish our open array. Use your math facts. What is 9 times 4? That's going to be 36. And then if I add those numbers, let's check. 90, 90, and 36. By the way, remember, I kind of go fast when I write. You're more than welcome to pause these videos so you don't feel like you're playing catch-up the whole time. 0 plus 0 plus 6 is 6. 9 plus 9 is 18. 18 plus 3 is 21. Whoa, that was the number of students we had. So if you remember, 216 divided by what number is, 216 divided by 9, sorry, my brain stopped working for a second, is what number? Well, to find that answer, all you need to do is add your top row. 10 plus 10 plus 4 is 24. So if I have 216 students, and I'm going to divide them into 9 groups, I will have 24 as my answer. Okay? I hope that you can see how multiplication and division are related, because you need to know your ratios, or what times what is what, so that you can potentially figure out what your quotient is using the left side of a ratio table. In problem 1, we multiplied to figure out a larger answer, and then we multiplied and made our ratio table here, focusing on the right side, the larger numbers, to divide them to make a smaller number. So using a ratio table, you can do multiplication or division problems, and you can represent them using an open array to double check your work. Okay? Hopefully that helps. Check you later.